finding a solution to crime and public safety concerns remains a top issue for midterm voters. So today, we decided to take a look at a place that seems to be getting it right, Camden, New Jersey. About a decade ago, the police department did a reboot and completely overhauled their approach to a city that many consider to be one of the most dangerous in the country.
Yeah, they didn't just do that, Lad. They fired everyone and then went about rebuilding and rehiring their staff. Officer training has changed while community policing was introduced, leading to some surprising results. For example, in just 9 years, burglary is down 77%, arson is down 68%, murder is down 66%.
Wow.
So I visited the South Jersey town and spoke directly to officers and members of the community about what works and how they are continuing to improve. Both of you guys grew up in Camden.
Yes.
What was Camden like when you grew up?
To be honest, I felt like it was a little bit rough. My mom, she was kind of sheltered me away from being outside because how bad the area was.
Just being from the city, you lose family, you lose friends. You never know. You never know the next time a friend or a family member, a cousin, a brother walks out the door, if something's gonna happen.
Did you lose family and friends?
I lost a brother, yes.
Since implementing community policing less than a decade ago, this department relies on getting valuable one-on-one time with residents and business owners by requiring officers to get out of their cars and walk a beat. This is why, unlike previous stories I've done where I would ride along with officers, in Camden, it was a walk-along.
Everywhere I go, I see officers walking in the streets. And
Do you like that?
I think it's better because I feel safer.
We don't hang out in the car. We're out here, we're talking to our people, we're greeting them, we're walking in businesses.
If you're in a car, it's so sheltered, and you're only being out of the car when you go into calls, how are you getting to know the community?
Do you think being out here on the street helps to prevent crime?
Absolutely.
100%.
Hi, Miss Helen. How's everything?
Everything was okay.
Everything's good?
Yeah, it's a
no-
nice day. By police walking around, checking on me, I feel safe, and the customers still feel safe too. Before, on the street, you can see a lot of homeless, junkies, and everything, but not now.
If a person is homeless, we give them outreach services. We don't run them for warrants and try to lock them up. That's not going to help them.
But wait a minute. Is that crime fighting?
Sure.
It doesn't sound like crime fighting.
Well, not in the traditional crime fighting way. I think it's going to prevent them from committing the crime or turning to crime in the future.
Sergeant Angel Nieves has been with Camden Police for 22 years. He was here when the department went through its changes and was one of the officers who was let go. He chose to reapply to become part of this updated force. How difficult was it to change the culture, to have people look at policing in a different way?
You can't arrest your way out of a lot of these problems that we have. It took decades. A lot of them are, whether it's homelessness or drug, those are symptomatic of larger issues. So you can't arrest your way out of those problems. A lot of those people need help.
But there's a challenge, convincing police departments that to change crime statistics, you might have to change the police department first.
If there's no trust between the community and the police, then they should at least give it a try, because if not, something's going to blow up, and it's going to blow up big, and then they're going to be sorry.
So, you know, Vlad, we can tell the story through statistics and stuff, but I just want to show you just one more sort of little piece of video that was kind of so cool. When we were waiting for a photographer to set up, so we shot this right before Halloween, and here's this little boy who's dressed up as a police officer, and you can see me trying to shoot a video.
Picture,
and he wants to come across the street to meet these officers and take pictures with them. He is so excited about meeting a police officer. And I would venture a guess that these two ladies who grew up in Camden, when they were kids, would not feel that comfortable around police officers.
I mean, I think this is incredible, and it points to something that sociologists have told us time and time again, that your first interaction with a police officer is the one that kind of sets the tone for how you will perceive them for a very long time, unless something drastically changes. So if your first interaction with a police officer is them taking a family member and brutalizing them or hurting them in a way, even if they've done something wrong, but you're a child and you witness that, you are
making a memory.
It's a memory. And here, with what they're doing and what you're reporting on, it seems to indicate that they know that there are bad people out there. That's not changing how they go about fighting crime in that way. But there are other things you can do that allow the community to feel as if you respect them.
Yeah, yeah.
And that you're just not there because it's a chore for you to be there. That you're, you know what I mean? Like
completely.
yeah.
Listen, one of the things that sort of stuck out to us is as we were sort of just arriving to the area to do the interview, there were officers walking the beat. Like, it's not like they did it because media's coming, right? There were already officers there sort of walking the beat. That is what they do. And people are comfortable with them. And, you know, often, I think about where I live, if I see a police officer, my immediate question in my head is, well, what happened?
Right.
Because the police officers often respond to crimes.
Yes.
These officers are there before a crime happens.
Right.
And I don't know if you noticed, but the 3 officers we spoke to, 2 Hispanic officers, 1 Black.
Yeah.
Camden is more than 50% Hispanic. That number could be even higher because there's some estimates that there are about like 14,000 undocumented people living in Camden County, not just Camden City, but Camden County. So the importance of having a diverse police force.
Right.
And a police force that grew up in Camden.
That is huge.
It makes such a difference.
Because you, in many stories that you and I have covered as reporters, you go into these communities where there's been some act of police brutality, or where the neighborhood feels as if they're not getting a proper police response to their concerns. And oftentimes you find that these cops don't live in those communities. They live in more affluent communities or not at all in the area, right? And that certainly can proceed. Again, it goes to the mentality of showing up in a neighborhood where you're like, it's like, I have to go to this area to, you know, so I think that having these cops, I mean, they've told you, right, that being from the community is a game changer.
It's about speaking the language, yes, in some cases, but it's also about understanding the culture and not misinterpreting what you're seeing. When people maybe don't want to talk to you, you might see that as suspicious, but if you understand what you're seeing, because these people look like your aunt, they look like your brother, they look like your sister, you will manage the situation better. You will de-escalate the situation.
So can we let me just, before, you know, one of the things that I think is important to point out, and you did already in your intro, Anne-Marie, but we're talking about, like, it feels in a way we're talking about a very idealistic view of the police department in Camden, New Jersey, but let's just reiterate those statistics that you said at the top, so that people just don't think, oh, you know, listen to how, like, you know, this perfect situation that happens in one community in New Jersey, crime, burglary down 77%, arson down 68%, murder down 66%.
Listen,
those are real numbers.
Those are real numbers.
That reinforce what we're talking about.
Camden's not perfect, right? I mean, it's not Shangri-La now. Camden still has a lot of problems, same problems that you see in a lot of other places. When we talk about education, though, I have to say that they've also improved their graduation rate in this time, and that makes a difference when it comes to crime in communities. There's a connection. But when I moved to this country, right, I had never heard of Camden before. I moved to Philadelphia. It's right across the river, and it was the murder capital of the country, you know, per population. That is what it was known for. And the only reason we ever went there were to cover the most outrageous crimes, not regular murder, because there were too many of those. The place has transformed. The city has a long way to go, for sure. But what was always there were people who were hardworking, good people who want to pay their bills, send their kids to school, and feel safe in their communities. And you heard that one officer say, you know, you can't arrest your way out of problems. One of the things that he said to me was that when the crime rate started to go down, outside organizations felt comfortable coming in, support organizations. So now the police have options. This is what people talk about when they say reimagining public safety, right? Before they didn't have options. When there was a homeless person that was causing problems on the street, they had no place to send them, so you got to lock them up. Now they have these outside organizations that feel safe enough to set up shop. Officers have an alternative place to send people who are on the edge, and they don't have to lock them up. And you see a community that is breathing a sigh of relief.
And that point, Anne-Marie, about a community breathing a sigh of relief is one that I think got lost in the rhetoric, the heated rhetoric by politicians over the last couple of years, right? Oftentimes people assume, oftentimes Democrats assume that, you know, people in communities like Camden want to defund the police. They don't. They want the police there so that there can be a CVS or a Walgreens in the neighborhood that isn't burglarized every day, as
Yeah.
you see sometimes here in New York City, where people just walk into a pharmacy and ransack the place, and nobody is able to do anything about it, right? I mean, they want that protection, and what they want is respect. They want the same level of respect that police officers put into protecting communities in Westchester. They want that same level of respect that they put into, because that kind of policing happens in places like where my parents live in Orangeburg, New York, and Rockland County, where there are cops that are, around, or where you can find them very, very quickly. They want that same level of respect.
Yeah, it would be nice to see it repeated elsewhere too. Camden's a great example.
Really cool. Very great reporting. That was
Thank you.
awesome.